Hey everyone, Jersey Streamer here. Today I'm going to be going over the research trees. I'm only going to do Tier 1 and Tier 2. I will show you the Tier 3 and Tier 4 ones. However, I am not going to say much outside of, reading them. And I just want to do that because I don't have... I've only been to Tier 3 and Tier 4 research stuff once. And that was on a server where, it was an official server with 20 people, and I really didn't get to like play around with the other ones. Like there were ones that I thought looked pretty good, but my faction was already committed to three others, so I didn't really get to see them in action at least. So I don't want to go giving bad advice on tier 3 and tier 4 just because I haven't experienced them all. So I'll go through these one by one. Adventuring, personal saw, I would say is pretty close to a must-have. Being able to refine the higher tier logs into lumber without, lugging them all the way back to the main hub makes things a lot easier. The lumber weighs less, so you can carry more back. Um, and if you get like personal crafting stations down and stuff, then you don't even have to go back to the main hub for, your refined lumber. So leather armor, I would also say is pretty close to a must-have. If you need survivability, this is the one place that you get it in the Tier 1 researches. Um, I personally like cloth armor better just because I like the look of it, and cloth armor definitely has its own set of uses that are definitely different from leather armor, based on the innate bonuses here. So, this is the survivability armor. This is probably the one you want to take in most situations. Hunting bows, this is going to come down to personal preference. Post nerf, because the hunting bow skill tree got hit pretty hard, I'd say. Um, you definitely just want to pick like hunting bows, crossbows, or repeaters. Like which one do you want to concentrate on? That's not to say you can't do two or all of them, but generally to like maximize efficiency, you really only want to do one. So, talk to your faction and see what they want to stick with. Water skins, I would say this is an absolute must-have. Can you get by without it? Sure, but the leak rate on the water skins that you can craft without this research unlocked, they leak so fast that it is just an awful experience. um, just this basic water skin right here, that the first one that you get, half the leak rate, and it's got quadruple. No, sorry. I think the regular water skin is 50. Let me just check that here. No, it is 25. Okay. Yeah, so quadruple the carry capacity in water. Um, Normally, I run most of the game with just carrying two of these, and I never have to worry about water skins. Cloth armor, as I said with leather armor, the leather armor is definitely more survivable, but cloth armor has its own different set of bonuses here. The only thing is, like, you see the heat insulation bonuses across all these, right? The only thing is that you can actually get heat insulating armor in the tier 2 in one of the other trees. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's mysticism, but I'm not positive. And it'll get you that heat insulation. The only reason that you may want to like take this or that if you're not really interested in the armor is for this light armor improvement versus the medium armor improvement stations that you can put on personal crafting tables. You can't build light or medium armor without this out at a personal crafting table. Armory. So this is an interesting one. I've kind of ignored this, to be honest. You get like the weapon and armor racks, so I don't really see the use to this. Especially considering its resource cost. Like weapon and armor racks are really cheap, so if you need more space, just build a ton of them. So I would say this is probably... I don't want to say avoid it because it's certainly an option if, it's something you want to do. versus the weapon and armor racks, or do both, if you've got a large faction and, you need tons of space. But I think, like, picking 3 to get to here out of these first 5 here, is tough enough as it is. To add a 6th that kind of just duplicates what something you already have does, you know, that's why I kind of ignore it. Alright, and let me just move real quick. Alright, so here, unlocking this will get you your Spirit Hand Axe, which is the Tier 2 Wood Harvester, and your ability to empower it. All of these, these like Tier 1.5, like leeway into Tier 2 researches here, will all give you the respective tool and empowering it. They're all really important. You want to get them as fast as you can. And I do definitely recommend only researching 3 things to get to this, so you're maximizing your efficiency, right? That's not to say that you can't go back and research other things, but every point you dip into here beyond researching 3 things is, you're neglecting something here or something further along the line to do so, and kind of slowing your own progress. So for Tier 2, Conjurer of the Woods, all these conjuring ones are, in my playthroughs, I've found them pretty important. You know, you, I'm hesitant to say they're a must-have because I've only played with them, so like I don't know how well you can get by without them. Yeah, so not a must-have, but I would probably research them. For armor, this is 100% a must-have. Um, to be able to go into Hrustfell and even some parts of the Highlands, right? Oh, look at that. We're getting another patch. But even into some parts of the Highlands, having fur armor is pivotal for you to survive unless you, like, get super lucky on some of the chests. You're going to need this research. Sniper bows. These bows are all really, really strong. They're not post-nerf, wow. They're not OP like they used to be, but they're all really strong. So it really depends on, like what weapons your faction is doing. But even if you don't do hunting bows, you can still take sniper bows. So keep that in mind too. There's not like a prerequisite here. Backpacks, I would say, are a must-have. Um, excuse me. Increasing your carry weight is just so incredible, and getting up to this leather backpack here, which gives you plus 75 carry weight, is pretty easy. So like as soon as you research this, I just like tear right up through the tree to get the leather backpack. And battle hardened armory, you know, I mean, if you're taking armory, you want to take this, but I normally don't take armory, so I've kind of ignored this for now. Um, yeah, there's really not much to say, for me at least, about this, just because I've shied away from the armory so much. So, alright, so now we will look at the rest of them here. So all of these just give you, your upgraded tier harvesting tool, and then got reduce aggro radius and movement noise of all faction members by 10%. Artificer bow designs, just, some upgraded bows. And honestly, I think if you've got sniper bows, you don't really need this. It's not to say that this isn't good, but, you know. Master Craftsman hide armor. So this is something that's probably really worth looking at here. 10% faster reload times. I do really like these ones that are just faction-wide buffs. I think that's cool. And here we are again with some armory stuff. And last here, Reduce the carry weight of gear for all faction members by 30%. Divine sniper bows. These are like the ultimate sniper bows here. Ancient artisan hide armor. Remove mortal needs. Remove passive energy and hydration drains for all faction members. Again, armory stuff. All faction members gain 200 maximum stamina, and all faction members gain 30% increased critical damage. Alright, moving on to the construction tree here. So Divinity Seed, I would say is a must-have. You know, being able to build, you know, resource points and even just like little hidden bases is definitely a boon to any faction. Just make sure you guys don't do it too early. I normally would try to like hold off researching this until I've researched 2 other things in this tree. This way, like this is the 3rd thing, and you know that way you've kind of prevented people from going off a little too early. Base storage. It's not a must-have, but like it is at the same time. If you're going to be able to store pretty much anything at your base, you're going to want this. These roughwood trunks here, 42 inventory slots, and they're not super resource intensive. So, you know, I would say this is pretty much a must-have. Ammo alternatives, also a must-have. Some of these end up like, I think, nearly tripling your damage with a given weapon. And you know, you've got like Tangle Arrow, which has its own little effect. So I definitely recommend taking this. This upgrade stash thing, I actually never build a stash just because I stick with the base storage here, and just to save on research, I don't even bother with this. You know, if you're building the base storage stuff, you're gonna have enough slots. The only thing that the stash really provides is, you know, a personal inventory so that like no one else can touch it, which definitely has its uses on official servers and servers where like not everyone knows each other and stuff like that. So it certainly has its uses. Hand siege tools, you know, I don't really ever get this just because this tree is hard enough to pick already. Like ammo alternatives, base storage, divinity seed, and personal stonecutter are going to be the 4 that I struggle to choose between all the time. So I kind of ignore this and just wait for like the higher tier siege weapons. It's not to say this is bad. You know, getting early siege weapons is certainly useful. Personal stonecutter, again, just like the sawmill, it makes things a lot easier to set up a, you know, refining point outside of the hub. This way, you know, like when you get to tier 2 and you're doing the crag rock, you can just bring back crag rock bricks without having to carry the actual crag rock itself. And, you know, crag rock weighs a ton, so making it into bricks just makes things a little bit easier. And here you have your spirit hammer, which is the tier 2. So sturdy building materials, I would say this is a must-have. Building with the crag rock is very helpful for surviving the reckoning, especially on like lower population servers. So, and I think the hardwood looks really cool. It's obviously not as strong as the crag rock is, but still. Blasters. This is probably pretty close to a must-have. Blasters are pretty sweet. You know, look at how much damage they do. They have a slower rate of fire, but hitting something for, you know, 50 damage, and that's just the basic blaster I'm talking about here, is pretty great. Yeah, I definitely recommend, you know, researching blasters, especially considering that this tier right here is only 4 right now, and I ignore this one at all times, like I said, because I don't get the stash, and I just get these 3. And here again we've got the Conjuring Stone. Um, Again, I'm gonna say like I've always had this, so I don't know if it's a huge pain to not have it, but um, in the same regard, I do recommend getting it because I know that it is certainly helpful in the mid. I would say mid, maybe a little bit more towards late game. Um, so definitely get that. All right, so now we'll go over these other ones. Got your next tool there. Advanced ammo. This stuff starts getting pretty interesting. Superior building. Got the granite and iron fur. Augmented blasters. This just makes an already good weapon pretty ridiculous. Look at that damage there. 282.2. Upgraded stash. I would ignore it. And unfortunately, this is not yet implemented, but I feel like this is gonna be pretty sweet once it is. And here we go with this. Riddles of the Earth. Increase stone harvest yields for all faction members by 100%. It's pretty sweet. Though, I mean, like, these harvest yields are probably less important on boosted servers just because you're already harvesting a good amount. And let me just move real quick before I go over that next one. Alright, so you got Rune Oak and Acer Rock Construction. All faction members gain 500 armor for 10 seconds whenever they take a critical hit. Super strong. Stash upgrade. Divine ammo. This is, the best ammo you can get here. Heart of the Mountain. This is where you can get the Greater Divinity Seed. Increases maximum health of all faction members by 50. And on to invention. Crossbows. These are probably my favorite weapon. Just because, like, the bow is really useful for sniping, which is what I like to do, but crossbows are just a little bit easier for PvP because they have the range, but they also aren't super unwieldy, when you get up close, like the bow kind of tends to be at times. Spike barricades. So this is a situation where I would probably do one of these two for sure. Personal preference, it's going to come down to personal preference, but these are both good in their own ways. This kind of adds an extra layer of defense, and the base reinforcement kind of just makes your existing defenses better. So, talk to your faction and kind of pick which one you want to do. Refinery improvement. This probably is not a necessary research. It certainly makes things easier for your, refining points out in the wilderness there, but you don't need it. It just adds slots to, the sawmill, the stonecutter, and the heavy forge, or hardy forge, sorry. So instead of having, I don't remember how many slots you have off the top of my head, but I think it adds like 6 additional slots to the inventory for all 3 of these. And trap building, I like this one. The traps are interesting to use. They can be kind of hard to use at times, like when you're first getting used to them. But, if you just, bring something towards you in a straight line, obviously you're going to be able to get them on a trap. And, they've got all sorts of different effects here. I like this research, even though I really haven't made a ton of use of traps. I take this research like every time thinking that I'm going to use them, and then I just forget most times. So this tier here, you definitely want one of these two, and then you can kind of pick from these other 3. Or you could go to both of these, that's certainly a viable option since, if you're not going crossbows and you're going like bows or repeaters or something, you don't really need to take that. Then you could go both of these and then pick one of those 2. So then you've got this is one of the, I think that's the only one actually. Yeah, it is. This is the only one that actually unlocks additional things beyond the upgraded harvesting tool, and these things are all pretty fantastic. You know, the major crit chance and the major enhancements um, are really good early game. You know, getting 10% more chance of a crit and a bonus chance for a lesser enhancement on anything you craft at a personal crafting table is really strong. You know, 10%, like, that's a pretty good chunk there. Alright, so spike launchers. I really haven't used spike launchers much, so I don't really want to say too much on this. Um, you know, I've certainly seen them used to great effect, um, but, you know, I mean, like, the rate of fire obviously is pretty fantastic, but I really can't, I really don't want to say that, you know, where they fall within the weapons, because I just haven't used them that much. Armor blacksmithing, so this is where you get your first set of heavy armor, and you get that heavy armor improvement for the personal crafting table. Um, this stuff is going to be pretty important, though I know you get another heavy metal armor down here, so you don't necessarily have to take it right here. But if you're on a PvP server and it's official, like, not taking it here and waiting for down here means everyone else is probably going to have heavy armor before you do. These bombs are pretty interesting. I really like the idea of somebody like running up to the base and planting one. Um, Gives that whole like Lord of the Rings vibe where orc or the orc is running up to the walls, trying to plant that bomb at the base of it. Um, Ancient refinery improvements. It's good. Again, just add slots. You know, so it really depends. I think you probably want to prioritize other things in this tree, especially if you've gotten this one already. Like, how many slots do you really need in a refinery? If you need more slots, just build another refinery. Conjuring metal. I'm really not going to touch on this just because it's kind of the same for the other two variants of this. I've always played with it. I don't know how difficult not having it is, so um, I'd probably recommend building and researching all of these. And Lesson of the Valkyrie, increase harvest damage of all faction members by 50%. So just keep in mind that if you're playing on a server that has boosted harvesting damage, you know, this will be less important, I guess I could say. Alright, and so here we go. We've got the superior variants of the ones we got back here, plus the next tier. Advanced spike launchers, heavy metal armor. This is the good stuff here. Armored vaults. I actually don't think I've ever had one of these or seen one. Another set of refinery improvements. And this one actually gets your stone cutter as well, whereas the other two did not. Some more interesting bombs here. And then we got the greater variant and the next tier. This is the ultimate armor. The ultimate bombs. Anything that says Divinite or Divinite, however you want to pronounce that, is top tier. Another set of refinery improvements. A vault here. Wall brace. 150% additional metal harvest yields. And 600 armor for the entire faction. That's pretty strong. Lastly, we have mysticism. So, spirit materials. I do really like this one. It doesn't tell you right there what the buff does, but if you read up here, it tells you. You get 25% more spirit residue when you return spirits. So, you know, the more spirits you carry back to the tree, the more bonus you're getting. So just remember that. Like if you have, I'm pretty sure if you have 3 spirits, you do not see this bonus at all because it'll round the decimal down. But you know, if you bring back 4 spirits, you get 5 spirit residue, and so on and so forth. But um, it's especially useful if like you're eating stag loin, and I don't mean the raw loin. I mean like the actual cooked variant, because that increases your the amount of spirits that you can carry at a given time, and you know there's also other ways to increase your spirit capacity. So like you're just amplifying this. Repeaters are really good. Um, I would say they're probably the best PvP weapon, best generalist PvP weapon. You've got to get in a little closer with them, but you know if you're not like super keen on first-person shooters and stuff like that, and you're like struggling to aim, the repeater's rate of fire and clip size is a little bit more forgiving. You know, every bolt that you miss early levels, like, oh no, I only missed 4 damage, whereas every time you miss with like a bow or a crossbow, it's like triple that. Um, so you know you're gonna have to land more bolts to make up the damage, but they're I don't know, they're just really new player or new person to FPS friendly. Lighting the way, I would say this is necessary. Um, the crew torches that you start out with on non-boosted servers just they like disappear in seconds, and I think it's so annoying to have to like hit G while you're in a cave, find whatever you're looking for, and then I normally hit G again to put it away while I mine or whatever I'm doing, right? And then you know I gotta hit G again to light it back up and find the next thing I need to do, and you know, and then even still the torch probably ends up breaking. Lost spirits. So this is good, but I normally don't take it. I normally favor this over this. I would probably definitely do one of these two. Um, you can certainly do both. That's definitely an option, and it just enhances your spirit gathering, um, which is obviously the end goal of the game here. But I think like there's a lot of stuff in this first tier here that you want to take. Like, so say you take one of those two, you definitely want the spirit stables, and I would say you know you probably want lighting the way or potions and salves. Um, and then you may want repeaters as well, right? Like, there's so much going on here that it's a tough decision, and I would probably only take one of these two. Potions and salves, pretty self-explanatory. It gives you like a bunch of different potions that do different things. You get the elixir of recovery, which increases your health regenerate. Um, the Yixen blood elixir gives you 50% additional carry capacity. You know, there's a bunch of interesting stuff in here, and these don't say what they do yet, but I think you could kind of guess what they do. Like elixir of luck um, increases rare find. Elixir of harvest increases your harvesting. And I mean, a lot of them are useful here. So, spirit stables. This is where you get your pet taming from. You need this research to be able to tame pets. You can certainly go the entire game without pets, but pets make everything a ton easier. Alright, then you've got your tier 2. And so I really don't have much experience with this. My faction has always kind of shied away from it because they didn't really know what it was. A lot of these things, like if you read them, they say that they do some pretty interesting stuff. I'm probably going to play with it in my other playthrough that I've been recording and see what they actually do. So I don't really want to say too much here because I'd just be guessing. But you know, definitely talk to your faction about that one. Natural defense. So this is good, but I normally skip this entirely in favor of the survival armor. So the natural defense, um, you've got a high chance to avoid poison here on a lot of these, but What you really want out of cloth armor is the ability to go into like the swamp and hotter areas, and you get that from here, which is like the Marsh Tread, Mire Walker, and all that stuff. So you can see the heat insulation there, plus 5%, plus 5. Um, and you've got different levels, but you definitely want to take this one. This is how you go into the swamp without like overheating. You can actually get it if you've got cloth armor, just like regular basic cloth armor with the correct bonuses. Um, you can get into the swamp and like not be super troubled by it. But this armor looks pretty freaking awesome. So here's your first set of sentry turrets. The sentry turrets are not very strong, but obviously like every single thing shooting at an enemy helps. So this is an interesting one. Um, you can certainly do without it, but I would recommend taking it. As I said, like everything shooting at somebody helps. Here you get some better set of potions. It's pretty much all the same as these tier 1 ones, except it's just, bigger bonuses, like you got that 100% carry for double the time, and so on. And spirit stable upgrade, sorry. This is really important as well. This is where like you get the better taming stuff, and you get 6 more stable slots. So this is probably, I would say that's probably the must-have out of this tier, is the spirit stable upgrade. And that's if you have interest in taming pets. If you're really not concerned with that and you're just going to, say, forget pets the entire time, which I don't recommend, but if you're going to, then, you certainly don't need this. Alright, let me just move real quick, and then we've got the next tier upgrade. You've got advanced repeaters here. Then, does this just not tell you? Yeah, I guess it just does not tell you. This is your second tier of turrets. You can just skip these possessed sentry turrets and get these, but again, this means that like everyone else will have turrets before you. So these are, some stronger potions here. And so this is like its own little set of potions actually. And like they've got some pretty interesting bonuses here, like True Sight. I definitely recommend taking that. Here's another spirit stable upgrade. Here's transmutation. This will unlock like these higher end transmutations because I believe you start with the rest of them. I have never checked to see if you actually have to research something for it, but this is for like some of the rarer resources, so it's definitely useful. You got your next tier. All faction members gain 30% increased tame progress. Really strong for taming. Here is even more advanced transmutation. You can actually get the Divinite here. Increases the duration of shrine buffs for all faction members by 100%. Your tier 2 droughts. Another spirit stable upgrade. Divine Spirit Vessel, increase maximum maximum spirit capacity of all faction members by 150. This is big time. 150. You start with, what is it, 20? Yeah. You start with 20, so imagine bumping that up by 150. And Divine Alchemy, this doesn't say what it unlocks, and I have not seen, like, as it was unlocked, so, like, if anything within the alchemy tree unlocked, so I really don't know. Let me see if I can actually figure that out right now. So, oops. Yeah, see, they all say Potions Tier 2, which is the one before that. That's Droughts all Tier 2. Yeah. seems to me like that really isn't quite implemented yet, so, um, you know, it may be implemented in a future patch, so just keep an eye out for that. Alright, well, that's all of it. Again, hope this is helpful, and don't know what I'm going to be doing next here. I went and built a personal base on my other playthrough, so we'll see what happens. Alright, well, hope you enjoyed, and have